Here's what nobody wants to admit. We're doing this to yourself. Right now, whatever's making you anxious, depressed, or angry, it's not the situation doing it. It's you. And before you click away thinking I'm blaming you, listen, this is actually the best news you'll hear all year. Because if you're creating your own misery, that means you can stop creating it. See, there are 3 beliefs, 3 specific thoughts that create 90% of human suffering. I've seen them destroy marriages, careers, and lives. But I've also seen people eliminate them in weeks. And that's exactly what we're doing today. Look, I need to be straight with you about something. This isn't therapy. I'm not here to hold your hand and tell you your feelings are valid and you just need to love yourself more. That's horseshit, and deep down, you know it. What we're doing today is different. I'm going to show you the exact thinking patterns that create anxiety, depression, and rage. Not theories, not feel-good fluff. The actual cognitive distortions that make life hell. See, most people think they're stuck with their emotions. They think, well, I'm just an anxious person, or I have anger issues, or I'm depressed because my life sucks. But that's like saying you're stuck being wet because you're standing in the rain. Just move. Change your thinking. Change your life. Here's what you're getting today. First, the 3 core irrational beliefs that poison human happiness. I call them the 3 major musts, and once you see them, you'll spot them everywhere. Second, exactly how these beliefs work in your brain to create misery. And third, most important, the specific techniques to destroy them. This isn't pop psychology. This is rational emotive behavior therapy, and it's backed by 60 years of research and thousands of successful cases. But more important than that, it works fast. And it works because it attacks the real problem, your thinking, not the fake problem, your circumstances. So if you're ready to stop being miserable and start living like a rational human being, stay with me. Let me start by explaining why you feel like crap in the first place. And more importantly, why that's not actually the real problem. See, most people have this completely backwards. They think their emotions come from what happens to them. Someone cuts them off in traffic, they get angry. Their boss criticizes them, they get anxious. Their partner leaves them, they get depressed. And they say things like, she made me angry, or that situation depressed me, or he hurt my feelings. But here's the thing, that's not how it works. That's not how emotions work at all. Let me prove it to you. 2 people lose their jobs on the same day. Same company, same layoff, same severance package. One person is absolutely devastated. They spend weeks in bed, can't eat, can't sleep, thinks their life is over. The other person, they're relieved, maybe even excited. They see it as an opportunity, a chance to finally pursue something they actually care about. Same event, completely different emotional reactions. Now, if the event caused the emotion, they'd both feel the same way, right? But they don't. So what's the difference? The difference is what they're telling themselves about what happened. This is what I call the ABC model, and it's the foundation of everything I'm going to teach you today. A stands for activating event. That's what happened. You lost your job. Someone criticized you. Your date rejected you. Whatever. B stands for belief. That's what you tell yourself about what happened. And C stands for consequence. That's how you feel and behave as a result. Now, most people think it causes C. They think the event causes the feeling. But that's wrong. B causes C. Your belief about the event causes your feeling. Let me give you another example, because this is crucial. Let's say someone asks you out on a date, and you say yes, and then they cancel at the last minute. That's the activating event. Now, you could tell yourself, I'm unlovable. Nobody will ever want me. I'm going to die alone. That's one belief. And if you believe that, what happens? You feel depressed. Maybe you don't leave your house for a week. That's the consequence. Or you could tell yourself, well, that person wasn't right for me anyway. Their loss. There are plenty of other people out there. That's a different belief. And if you believe that, what happens? You feel mildly disappointed for maybe an hour, and then you move on with your life. Same event, different belief, completely different emotional outcome. This is where your power lives. You can't always control A. You can't control what other people do. You can't control layoffs or traffic or the weather. But you can control B. You can control what you tell yourself about what happens. And when you change B, C automatically changes. Change your thinking, change your feelings. It's that simple. Not easy, but simple. And this is why blaming external events for your misery gives away all your power. When you say she made me angry or that situation depressed me, you're saying you're helpless. You're saying your emotions are at the mercy of whatever happens to you. But they're not. Your emotions are at the mercy of what you tell yourself about what happens to you, and that you can change. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Albert, I get it. My thoughts create my feelings. But what are these toxic thoughts you keep talking about? What exactly am I telling myself that's causing all this pain? That's what we're covering next. And I'm warning you, when you hear these 3 beliefs, you're going to recognize yourself immediately. It's going to be uncomfortable. But that discomfort, that's the sound of you waking up. The first irrational belief that's probably destroying your life right now is this: I absolutely must be loved and approved by everyone important in my life, or else I'm worthless. And I mean must. Not prefer. Not want. Not would like. Must. It's a demand. It's an absolute requirement that you're placing on reality. And it's killing you. Let me tell you what this belief looks like in real life. It's needing constant validation from everyone around you. It's being paralyzed by fear of criticism. It's people-pleasing to the point where you betray yourself over and over again. It's being absolutely devastated when someone doesn't like you. It's not being able to make decisions without getting approval from 10 different people first. I had a client once, a woman in her 40s, who stayed in a marriage where her husband cheated on her repeatedly, where he verbally abused her, where he made her feel worthless every single day. And you know why she stayed? Because she thought she needed him to love her. She thought that without his approval, she was nothing. That's what this belief does to people. Now, here's why this belief is absolutely, completely, 100% irrational. First of all, it's impossible. You literally cannot make everyone approve of you. It's not a matter of being good enough or trying hard enough. It's impossible. Hitler had supporters. Jesus had enemies. Even at the absolute extremes of human behavior, not everyone approved. So if you're demanding universal approval, you're demanding something that has never existed in the history of humanity. That's irrational. Second, other people's approval doesn't determine your worth. Your worth doesn't come from what other people think of you. Their opinion is just their opinion. It's not objective truth. It's not reality. It's just what's going on in their head. And you're going to let that control how you feel about yourself? That's insane. And third, when you demand approval, when you make it a must, you're demanding something you can't control. You can't control what other people think. You can be kind, you can be competent, you can be generous, and some people still won't approve of you. And that's okay. That's just reality. But when you demand their approval, when you need it to feel worthwhile, you've set yourself up for guaranteed misery. Let me tell you the real-world damage this belief causes. It creates anxiety before every social situation because you're terrified someone won't approve. It creates depression after any criticism because you interpret disapproval as evidence that you're worthless. It makes you unable to be authentic because you're constantly changing yourself to please others. It keeps you in bad jobs, bad relationships, bad friendships because you can't stand the thought of someone disapproving if you leave. It stops you from pursuing your real goals because someone might think you're foolish or wrong or not good enough. You end up living someone else's life instead of your own. All because you're demanding something you can't have and don't actually need. So how do you spot this belief in your own head? Listen for words like I must, I have to, I need to whenever it comes to approval. Notice when you feel awful after mild criticism. Watch yourself changing your behavior just to please others. Pay attention to decisions you avoid because someone might disapprove. Those are all signs this irrational belief is running the show. Now, here's what healthy thinking sounds like. Here's the rational alternative. I prefer to be approved of, but I don't need it. If someone doesn't like me, that's disappointing, but it doesn't make me worthless. Their opinion is just their opinion. I can be sad if someone important to me disapproves, but I can still function. I can still pursue my goals. I can still be happy. That's it. That's the whole damn thing. Prefer, don't demand. Want, don't need. That simple shift from I must be approved to I'd like to be approved changes everything. All right, so that's the first major must, the demand for approval. But there's a second one that might be even more destructive. This one doesn't just make you anxious. This one fills you with rage. It makes you hate people, hate life, hate everything. And you probably do this one multiple times every single day. Here's the second irrational belief. Other people must treat me fairly and considerately. And when they don't, they're terrible people who deserve to be punished. Again, notice the must. It's a demand. You're demanding that other people behave the way you think they should. And when they don't, you lose your mind. What does this look like? It's road rage when someone cuts you off in traffic. It's fury when people are late or inconsiderate or rude. It's holding grudges for years over minor slights. It's that feeling of how dare they about everything. It's believing that bad behavior makes someone a fundamentally bad person. It's the inability to forgive, to let go, to move on. I knew a guy who was still angry about something a coworker said to him 5 years earlier. 5 years. He'd replay it in his head constantly, get furious all over again, fantasize about revenge. And you know what changed in those 5 years? Nothing. Except his blood pressure went up and his relationships deteriorated. That's what this belief does. Now, why is this belief irrational? First, because people are imperfect. They're going to behave badly sometimes. That's not a moral failing unique to them. That's the human condition. We're all fallible. We're all stupid sometimes. We're all selfish sometimes. That's reality. Your demand that people behave differently doesn't change that reality. It just makes you miserable. Second, because should and must don't exist in the universe. They exist in your head. The universe doesn't care about your shoulds. People do what they do, not what they should do. When you say they shouldn't have done that, what you really mean is you don't like that they did it. But they did do it, so clearly they were capable of doing it. Your should is just wishful thinking. And third, getting enraged doesn't change their behavior. It doesn't teach them a lesson. It doesn't make them better people. It just makes you miserable. Think about it. When you're sitting in your car, seething with rage because someone cut you off, does that person even know? No, they're gone. They're living their life. Meanwhile, you're destroying your own peace over something that lasted 3 seconds. Who's really being punished here? The real-world damage this belief causes is enormous. It creates constant anger and frustration over things you can't control. It destroys relationships because you can't forgive minor infractions. It causes actual physical health problems, high blood pressure, stress, heart disease. It wastes massive amounts of emotional energy that could be used for something productive. It makes you bitter, cynical, impossible to be around. And it robs you of joy because you're too busy being pissed off about everything. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. People are fallible, stupid, selfish sometimes. That's reality. Your anger doesn't change them. It only hurts you. When you say they shouldn't have done that, you're engaging in magical thinking. You're demanding that reality be different than it is. And that's insane. They did do it. It happened. Now you have a choice. You can accept that reality and figure out how to respond effectively, or you can rage against reality and make yourself miserable. Those are your options. Now, here's the rational alternative. Here's the same version. I don't like what they did. It was inconsiderate and annoying. But they're a fallible human being, not a demon. They behaved badly, not because they're evil, but because they're human. I can be disappointed without being enraged. I can set boundaries without hatred. I can remove myself from the situation if needed, but I don't have to destroy my own peace in the process. That's it. That's how adults think. And here's a practical technique you can use right now. When you catch yourself thinking someone must behave better, try this. Replace they should with I wish they would. I wish they would be more considerate is rational. It's a preference. They must be more considerate is crazy. It's a demand that reality doesn't honor. One leaves you slightly annoyed and able to move on. The other fills you with rage and keeps you stuck. Your choice. Okay, 2 down, 1 to go. And this last one? This is the belief that creates depression. This is the one that makes people give up on life. This is the belief that whispers just quit. It's all pointless anyway. If you've ever felt hopeless, if you've ever wanted to just give up, this next belief is probably running in your head right now. The third irrational belief is this. Life must be easy and comfortable, and when it's not, it's awful and unbearable, and I can't stand it. This is what I call low frustration tolerance. It's the inability to handle discomfort, to persist through difficulty, to tolerate anything unpleasant. And it's epidemic. What does this look like in real life? It's avoiding anything difficult or uncomfortable. It's giving up at the first sign of struggle. It's catastrophizing when things go wrong. It's saying, I can't handle this. This is too hard. I shouldn't have to deal with this. It's paralysis when facing challenges. It's believing that discomfort equals disaster. I had a client who didn't pursue his dream career because it would require going back to school for 2 years. 2 years of difficulty, and he gave up on a lifetime dream. That's what this belief does. It robs you of everything meaningful. Now, why is this belief irrational? First, because life is difficult. That's not negotiable. That's not something you did wrong. That's just how life works. Everything worthwhile requires effort. Relationships require work. Careers require persistence. Health requires discipline. Happiness requires facing your fears. There is no version of a good life that's easy all the time. Your demand that life be easy is a demand for something that doesn't exist. Second, discomfort is not the same as disaster. This is crucial. You can be uncomfortable without being in danger. You can dislike something without it being unbearable. But this belief conflates the two. It treats any discomfort as if it's a catastrophe. You have to give a presentation and you're anxious. This belief says that's unbearable. You have to have a difficult conversation and you're uncomfortable. This belief says you can't handle it. But you can handle it. You just don't like it. There's a massive difference. And third, you can stand things you don't like. I know you believe you can't, but you're wrong. How do I know? Because you're standing things you don't like right now. You've survived every difficult thing that's happened to you so far. Every heartbreak, every failure, every disappointment. You didn't like them, but you stood them. You're still here. The proof that you can stand difficulty is that you have stood difficulty. Your belief that you can't is just a lie you keep telling yourself. The real-world damage this belief causes is staggering. It means you never achieve anything meaningful because everything meaningful is hard. It creates depression when you face normal life challenges because you interpret difficulty as evidence that something's terribly wrong. It leads to addiction because you're constantly seeking comfort and escape. It destroys relationships because relationships require work and you bail when things get hard. It leads to poverty and failure and regret because you avoid everything difficult. And ultimately, it creates learned helplessness. You become convinced you're incapable of handling life, and so you stop trying. Let me be very clear about something. When you say, I can't stand this, you're lying. You can stand it. I know you can because you're standing it right now. I can't stand this really means I don't like this. But you can survive things you don't like. You've been doing it your whole life. Every difficult thing you've survived, and you've survived all of them so far, because you're here, proves this belief is false. You have more resilience than you think you do. You're tougher than this belief tells you that you are. Here's what resilient people think. Here's the rational alternative. This is difficult and uncomfortable, but I can handle it. I don't like it, but I can stand it. Hard doesn't mean impossible. Uncomfortable doesn't mean unbearable. I can do hard things. I have done hard things. And I can do this hard thing too. That's it. That simple shift from I can't stand it to I don't like it, but I can handle it, changes everything. And here's a practical technique. Next time you catch yourself saying I can't stand this, stop. Ask yourself, am I standing it right now? And the answer is yes. You are. So clearly you can stand it. You just don't like it. And that's fine. You don't have to like it. You don't have to enjoy difficulty. But you need to stop lying to yourself about your ability to handle it. Because that lie is what keeps you stuck. All right, so now you know the 3 major musts. The demand for approval. The demand that others behave. The demand for comfort. These 3 beliefs create 90% of human misery. But knowing about them isn't enough. You need to know how to actually destroy them. That's what we're doing next. The practical techniques you can use starting today. So how do you actually destroy these irrational beliefs? You do it through something I call disputation. That means actively challenging and questioning these beliefs every single time they show up. See, these beliefs have been running in your head for years, maybe decades. They become automatic. They feel true, but they're not true. They're just familiar. And disputation is how you break that pattern. Let me give you the full model. I told you about ABC before. A is the activating event, B is the belief, C is the consequence. Now I'm adding D and E. D stands for disputation. That's where you challenge the irrational belief. And E stands for effective new belief. That's the rational thought you replace it with. This is your weapon against misery. This is how you actually change. So let's talk about disputation. There are 3 types, and you need to use all 3. The first is empirical disputation. That means asking, where's the evidence? Where's the proof? Show me the data. For example, if your irrational belief is I must be approved by everyone, you ask, where's the evidence that I must be approved? Where's a universal law that says I need everyone's approval to be worthwhile? Where's the proof that disapproval makes me worthless? And guess what? There is no evidence. There is no proof. It's just something you believe. But beliefs without evidence can be changed. The second type is logical disputation. That means asking, does this make sense? Is this logical? For example, just because I want approval, does that mean I must have it? Does wanting something make it a necessity? No, I want $1 million too, but that doesn't mean I must have it. Or, does someone's bad behavior actually make them a worthless person? If I behave badly sometimes, does that make me worthless? No. So why would it make them worthless? When you actually examine the logic, these beliefs fall apart. The third type is pragmatic disputation. That means asking, is this belief helping me or hurting me? Where's it getting me? For example, how's demanding approval working out for you? Is it making you happy? Is it improving your relationships? Or is it making you anxious and fake and miserable? If it's not working, why keep believing it? Or is your rage at other people changing their behavior? Or is it just destroying your own peace? If it's not helping, drop it. You need to dispute your irrational beliefs vigorously. Not gently, not politely, vigorously. Attack them like they're the enemy because they're robbing you of happiness. They're creating anxiety and rage and depression where none needs to exist. So when you catch yourself thinking an irrational must stop, challenge it. Demand evidence. Question the logic. Ask if it's helping. Don't let these beliefs slide by unchallenged. And then, after you dispute the irrational belief, you need to replace it with a rational one. That's E, the effective new belief. For the demand for approval, the rational belief is, I prefer approval, but I don't need it. I can be disappointed if someone doesn't like me, but I'll survive. Their opinion doesn't determine my worth. For the demand that others behave, the rational belief is, I wish people would treat me better, but they don't have to. They're fallible humans. I can be annoyed without being enraged. For the demand for comfort, the rational belief is, I'd like this to be easier, but I can handle difficulty. Hard doesn't mean unbearable. I'm tougher than I think. Notice the pattern? Prefer, not demand. Want, not need. Dislike, not can't stand. That's the shift. That's what changes everything. You're not eliminating preferences. You're not pretending you don't care about anything. You're just stopping the demands. You're accepting reality instead of fighting it. Now, here's the crucial part. You can't just do this once. You can't just think about this intellectually and expect your life to change. You need practice. Consistent, daily practice. These irrational beliefs are habits. They're grooves worn into your brain. And you don't change habits by thinking about them once. You change habits by repetition. Every time the irrational belief pops up, and it will, you dispute it. Every single time. At first, it'll feel forced. It'll feel fake. The irrational belief will still feel true, and the rational belief will feel like you're just saying words. That's normal. Keep going. Because, with repetition, the rational belief starts to feel more true. The irrational belief loses its power, and eventually, the rational thinking becomes automatic instead. This takes weeks, not days. I'm not going to lie to you and say you'll be fixed tomorrow. But if you consistently dispute these beliefs every time they show up, you will change. I've seen it happen thousands of times. The anxiety decreases. The rage subsides. The depression lifts. Not because your circumstances changed, but because your thinking changed. Now, disputation is the mental part, but there's also a behavioral part. You need to practice doing things that challenge these beliefs in real life. Let me give you some examples. For the demand for approval, I recommend something I call shame attacking exercises. You deliberately do something embarrassing in public to prove to yourself that you can survive disapproval. Sing loudly on the subway, or mismatch clothes to the grocery store. Ask a stranger for something ridiculous. The point isn't to be obnoxious. The point is to face your fear of disapproval and realize it won't kill you. When people look at you funny or judge you or think you're weird, and you survive it, you prove to yourself that disapproval isn't catastrophic. It's just uncomfortable, and you can handle uncomfortable. For the demand for comfort, you need to deliberately stay in discomfort instead of avoiding it. Have the difficult conversation you've been putting off. Do the challenging task you've been procrastinating. Exercise when you don't feel like it. Face the thing you're afraid of. Prove to yourself, through action, that you can handle difficulty. Because every time you avoid discomfort, you reinforce the belief that you can't handle it. But every time you face discomfort and survive, you prove that belief is wrong. For the demand that others behave, you need to practice refusing to let rage consume you when people behave badly. Someone cuts you off in traffic, and instead of screaming and seething, you notice your anger, you dispute the demand that they must drive better, and you let it go. Someone's rude to you, and instead of ruminating for hours about what a terrible person they are, you acknowledge it was unpleasant, you set a boundary if needed, and you move on. You prove to yourself that other people's behavior doesn't have to control your emotions. I'll tell you a story from my own life. Early in my career, I was terrified of approaching women. Absolutely terrified. I had this massive demand for approval. I thought if a woman rejected me, it would mean I was worthless. So I avoided it entirely. And then I realized this belief was ruining my life. So I started doing shame-attacking exercises. I would go to parks and approach women, and I would deliberately say awkward things, and I would get rejected over and over. And you know what happened? I survived. The rejection didn't kill me. It was uncomfortable, but I handled it. And the more I did it, the less power that fear had over me. That's what behavioral practice does. It proves your irrational beliefs are wrong. Look, this isn't magic. It's work. You've been thinking irrationally for years, maybe decades. Your brain has grooves worn into it from these beliefs. You're not going to fix that overnight. But if you consistently dispute these beliefs every single time they pop up, if you replace them with rational alternatives, if you practice behaviors that challenge them, you will change your brain. The anxiety will decrease. The rage will subside. The depression will lift. I've seen it happen too many times to doubt it. But here's what I need to tell you before we finish. And this might be the most important part of everything I've said today. You're probably going to ignore everything I just taught you. I'm serious. Most people will. They'll watch this video, they'll think that's interesting, and then they'll go right back to being miserable. And I want to tell you why and what to do about it. There's a gap between knowing and doing. You now know the 3 irrational beliefs. You now know how to dispute them. But will you actually do it? Will you actually change your thinking? Or will you just go back to demanding approval, raging at others, and avoiding discomfort? Because here's the thing. Most people won't change. They'll say they want to, but they won't do the work. And there are reasons for that. First, it feels good to blame others. It feels good to say it's their fault, I'm angry, or it's the situation that's making me anxious. Because if it's external, you don't have to take responsibility. You get to be a victim. And being a victim is comfortable in a weird way. It means you don't have to change. Second, it's scary to take responsibility. Because if I'm telling you that your thinking creates your misery, that means it's on you to fix it. That's a heavy burden. It's easier to just say I'm stuck. I can't help it. This is just who I am. And third, we've been thinking irrationally for so long that it feels true. These irrational beliefs feel like reality. Challenging them feels like lying to yourself. But they're not reality. They're just familiar. So here's what's required if you actually want to change. You need to catch yourself thinking irrationally multiple times per day. You need to actively dispute the belief every single time, not just sometimes. You need to replace it with a rational alternative consistently. You need to do behavioral practice, forcing yourself to face the things these beliefs make you avoid. This is daily work. This isn't a one-time fix. This is a commitment to thinking differently about your life. And most people won't do it. They'll try for a day or two, it'll feel hard, and they'll give up. But here's the choice in front of you. You can keep demanding approval, raging at others, avoiding discomfort. You'll stay anxious, angry, depressed. But at least it'll be familiar. You'll know what to expect. Or you can do the work of thinking rationally. You'll face discomfort in the short term because change is hard. But you'll gain freedom, peace, and effectiveness in the long term. You'll actually be happy instead of just wishing you were happy. Your choice, comfortable misery or uncomfortable growth. Nobody's going to do this for you. I can't think rationally for you. Your therapist can't. Your partner can't. This is on you. And here's what I've learned in 30 years of doing this work. The people who change are the people who decide to change and then do the work. The people who don't change are the people who keep waiting for their circumstances to change first. And they're still waiting. They'll be waiting forever. Don't be them. But here's the encouraging truth. If you actually do this, if you consistently dispute your irrational beliefs and practice rational thinking, your life will change. Not might. Will. I've seen it too many times to doubt it. The anxiety you think is permanent, it'll decrease. The rage you think is justified, it'll fade. The depression you think is who you are, it'll lift. Because you're not changing your circumstances. You're changing how you think about your circumstances. And that changes everything. All right, let's wrap this up because this matters. Let me tell you what we covered today. You learned that your emotions don't come from events. They come from what you tell yourself about events. That's the ABC model, and it's the foundation of everything. You learned the 3 irrational beliefs that create most human suffering. The demand for approval. I must be loved by everyone or I'm worthless. The demand that others behave. People must treat me fairly or they're terrible. The demand for comfort. Life must be easy or I can't stand it. You learned that these beliefs are irrational. They demand things reality doesn't provide. They make you miserable, and they're based on magical thinking. And you learned how to destroy them through disputation. Challenge the evidence. Challenge the logic. Challenge whether they're helping you. Then replace them with rational preferences. I prefer approval, but don't need it. I wish people were better, but they don't have to be. I want comfort, but I can handle difficulty. That's it. That's the system that's helped thousands of people stop being miserable and start living rationally. Now here's what I want you to do. For the next week, every time you feel intensely anxious, angry, or depressed, stop. Ask yourself, what am I demanding? What am I telling myself must happen? Then dispute it. Find the irrational belief and challenge it like your life depends on it, because it does. You're not a victim of your emotions. You're not stuck with anxiety or rage or depression. You're creating those feelings with your thoughts, which means you can stop creating them. You have more power than you think. Use it. And if you want to go deeper into rational thinking and how to actually apply this in your life, I've got another video you need to watch. It's about the biggest mistake people make when trying to change their thinking, something that sabotages even the smartest people. I'll show you exactly what that mistake is and how to avoid it. You've already learned the 3 beliefs that make you miserable. Now learn the 1 mistake that keeps you stuck in them, even when you know better. Click the video on your screen right now. Don't wait until you're feeling better. Do it now while you're motivated. Because motivated today beats I'll do it later every time. Go watch it. Your rational future self will thank you.